When you're building something for yourself, it's supposed to be hard and nothing's easy, but you have to find the beauty in that. Because now I look at where I am now and I look back and I appreciate those times where I did not have, there was a time where I was like, I chose not to pay my phone bill to get my fictitious business name.
Welcome to Securing the Bag, the Roots exclusive series about work, entrepreneurship, and the secrets to success. Today we are joined by restaurateur and the host of Hulu's Searching for Soul Food, Chef Alisa Reynolds. Welcome.
Hi.
So, before we get into the show, I wanted to jump into the intro of the show for Searching for Soul Food. It starts with classically trained, soul food raised. So, what's important about that phrase to you?
It describes who I am. Raised on soul food, but my technique is classical. I was told that to be taken seriously, you had to be classically trained. So I just went and did the due diligence, but I use all that classical training in my work today.
With your restaurant, you talked about in the show your obstacles of making that dream happen, of making my 2 cents. You came from only having 2 refrigerators, no money, and no credit. So what was that journey like of making your dream come true?
Oh my gosh. I love the securing the bag thing because it draws me to the point that that's what I try to do every day, just to stay afloat. But it's been a very hard journey. I almost lost my restaurant at one point. I had some legal battles with my earlier partners. And if you believe in something, I was willing to lose it all to gain it, to keep it. You see what I mean? So I'm not afraid of, filing for bankruptcy or whatever I had to do to keep the restaurant going, because if I wasn't losing that restaurant, I probably wouldn't have been in the space to even think about searching for soul food.
And you said that it took you 5 years to create your menu. So what was that process of
Oh my God,
that?
Bill, because during that 5 years, I was a private chef. So I had a lot of celebrity clients and I was like on tour, or I was always on a plane. So my vision started before I had the restaurant, because I believe in manifesting something. It's best to do everything that doesn't cost money, right? It doesn't cost money to do research. It doesn't cost money to do a lot of things, create a menu or whatever you want to do for your business. You can do that while you're still having a regular job. Not a regular job, but for me, it wasn't, I can't say private chefing and flying around the world is a regular job, but in your day-to-day, and then manifesting something where you want to go. So some people sit at their job and they hate their job and they want to do this, but they don't do anything to move forward on that. And I always say, do the free stuff to create your next business.
What was that transition like, becoming from private to having your own thing?
This was my baby. This was the one that I was laid everything out on the line for, because again, I never cooked soul food before. On this kind of scale. So I wanted it to be evolved nostalgia. It's gluten-free, it's health conscious, it has a healthy approach to it because we're in LA. So it's all kale. Right. You know what I mean? Kale and tacos. And that was very hard. But it wasn't, when I look back, hard, when you're building something for yourself, it's supposed to be hard and nothing's easy. But you have to find the beauty in that. Because now I look at where I am now and I look back and I appreciate those times where I did not have, there was a time where I was like, I chose not to pay my phone bill to get my fictitious business name. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I'll get the money for the phone, but I was so focused on getting everything that costs nothing, and that cost something, but kind of moving my life around to make this dream come true. So I believe in serious manifestation, serious belief, and the action that takes. A lot of us don't take the actions. We have amazing people in the hood right now with great ideas, and they don't do anything with them. So I'm an avid person of belief, and push yourself as far as you can.
How did the show come to be? So did you pitch it? Did Hulu approach you? What was the behind the scenes?
I wish Hulu approached me. Like I said, I was losing my restaurant. So within that time, I had hired an amazing girl named Janice. She had just graduated from college, and one day at the restaurant, I was like, what did you graduate for? She was like, I write scripts. And at the time, I was like, this is a great time to be creative, because why? Every other moment is spent on me trying to make my restaurant survive. It was driving me crazy. It was depressing. I was crying, waking up crying. I'd never done that before. It was very horrible. Like, as soon as my eyes were open, I would start tearing, because this is my dream that I may be losing. So within that, I just was like, what is soul food, and why am I trying to do it? And all of these thoughts started to come to my head. And she said, look, let me come over, you spill out your thoughts, I'll write them down and we'll create a deck. I was like, what's a deck? Well, whatever. And I remember with the glass of wine in my hand, I run out the kitchen. I'm like, searching for soul food. And for it to be now, it's like, it's incredible. Because from that point on, what those sessions with her did was get me out of the zone of I'm losing my restaurant, I'm losing my restaurant, I'm losing, because that is a manifestation in itself. And so the message in that is like when your back is against the wall, just like soul food, get creative. Because that's what soul food is. When you have no other option at the time, use what you can to be creative. And hopefully you can climb your way out of whatever you're dealing with. So that's how it started.
What were your favorite places or most surprising places that you went to?
Appalachia was surprising because of two things. Me understanding, and this may come off crazy, but if you live way up there, I'm in your hood. I understand. If I didn't like anybody, I would live up there. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or if I didn't want to be around anybody, and I don't think that is necessarily black or white. They just like doing their own thing. Let them do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm down with that. That's what America's about. Do whatever you want. What was surprising is that there were people that existed that may not have seen me, but were open arms. Never seen a black person in their whole life, you know? Wow. And I wanted to see if that existed. And the human experience is human, you know what I mean? They do have food traditions. They do have, you know, things that we have in terms of just family life and wanting to continue a legacy through food. So I just wanted to and stereotypes. Are these stereotypes the same? Now, don't get it twisted. There were some days that I did not leave my hotel room because it was scary. Yeah. Like I got the looks, I got the this, I got the, and I was like, okay, wrap this up. But Junior and his wife from Bantam, she texted me the next day and was like, you are a beautiful human being and your crew. These things were not, they have never thought that this would happen to them in their life. But to be able to open people up through food was beautiful. And so that was one of them. One of my other favorites was Peru, the Pachamanca, 8,000 years of doing something. As soon as I walked in and saw that man, we both started crying. He was like, you know, these are people committed to their legacy, to their tradition through food that are very passionate. And so that's what really resonated to me is we talk about erasure and we have all these cool words in America that we always think of, but there are people really fighting for this. You know what I'm saying? Like really, and they don't have a hashtag to do it in. So that was really compelling to me as well.
With soul food being such a big part of your restaurant, what was soul food, what did that mean to you before the series that you started? Well,
I'll give you the perfect example. I was building my restaurant and a guy walked by and he goes, what kind of restaurant is this gonna be? I said, what kind of food do you like? And he was like, I eat bad. I eat unhealthy. And I said, what do you eat? And he was like, soul food. And I was like, that's what motivates me. Because I can't have a black man thinking that his culture is bad. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. It's so many variations of how you make soul food. Just like, oh, well, there's meat in everything. Well, traditionally it was because they didn't have refrigerators, okay? So you had to preserve something that you needed to keep for days. Evolving it is, I make vegan greens. So it doesn't have to be bad, but I wanted to change the stigma about what it is, what it was, how it affects us, our DNA, and take it worldwide. You know what I mean? With the fact that it came from our country, it's our story, but does that, you know, transcend around the world? And it does.
In Peru, you talked a little bit about the word fusion and your difficult relationship with that word. Can you explain more about like what that difficulty is with fusions?
Because the word fusion usually and typically, not all the time, comes from a person that has nothing to do with the two things being fused. You see what I mean? So, and also I wanted to honor his culture because Peruvians are not into the word fusion because obviously of their story and everything. And I think that sometimes we get so easy to be like, oh yeah, this is a fusion, and we're not thinking about these are cultures that we're putting together. And I thought it's less thoughtful to me to call things fusion.
And so, like, what is that line of appropriation and just appreciation when it comes to food? When do you know you're going too far?
I don't, appropriating food is ridiculous because food has no say-so. You know what I mean? If we say that, we can say, okay, Italians are appropriating the tomato because it never, the buffalo mozzarella. So I think food is cancel free, and you can't appropriate it. You can freeze it if you want to. I'm not gonna get mad, but for me personally, I try to use other words, and I try to respect the cultures that are being fused or matched or mashed up. You could go as far as you want. You know what I'm saying? I had truffle oil on my fried chicken, and it's not appropriate. That because food is free. Food has this freedom that we can do all this stuff, but I tread lightly on making some whole thing and calling it fusion and this is what you made up, and you're not honoring the cultures that are in it.
Let's get into some worse. So, what is the worst business advice you've gotten, and what's the worst mistake you've made? And how'd you overcome it?
Okay, so let me see. There's a lot of mistakes I made. I mean, that's the beauty of life. Life is all one big mistake, and you just kind of keep making it better. That's why I never understood cancel culture, because everybody evolves. We all evolve. I didn't eat strawberries when I was 3 years old. Don't hate me, I eat them now. There's a lot of that. So for me, man, my biggest mistake is opening a restaurant not this one, without enough research. Jumping the gun before getting all of your T's and I's crossed. That is one of my biggest mistakes in some of my failures in my restaurant, having an idea but not having the plan. You know what I mean? And if you have the idea and not the plan, you need to have people that are in your group that are planners. So that's one. And the second question?
What's some of the worst business advice you've received?
Worst business advice, put an ATM inside your restaurant. My landlord, God bless him, and TVs everywhere. That's not, I don't listen to advice that much because what happens is everybody has an opinion. So then if you listen to all this advice, you know what I'm saying? The worst advice that I've gotten is listening to somebody that's not a business person. Bam.
And so you said research is one thing, but what are two other things that every person or chef should know before opening a restaurant?
That it's not all about the food, it's about the business. And I think a lot of restaurants fail because they have great food, but they don't have great business. You know what I mean? Also, location. Also, know your lane. Why be in a lane full of traffic when there's another lane with nobody in it? So I try to go through lanes with no traffic. So that's why people are like, oh, another soul food place? Well, who has vegan? Who has gluten-free? Who's doing this? Who's making all their own sauces? Who's da-da-da? Who's using rice bran oil? You try to, and then now I'm in my own lane and it's comfortable. That doesn't mean it's not hard. There's a lot of bumps in it, but that's what my advice to chefs: know your lane, be unique, but also make sure you have a team that knows how to do the things that you don't.
Perfect. Thank you so much.